The helicopter landed just before dawn, its blades chopping the silence over the military base in northern Germany. Soldiers ran forward quickly, guns ready but not pointing. They had been told to expect a VIP rescue, someone important, maybe even dangerous. When the door opened, out stepped a woman, barefoot, bruised, and silent. Her face was calm but unreadable, her eyes sharp like a hunter in the woods. She wore a torn jacket and carried nothing but a steel chain wrapped around her wrist. She didn't speak, not even when the medics tried to help her. She simply raised one hand and said, "I'll speak only to someone with real clearance." The soldiers exchanged confused looks. Who was this woman, and what kind of clearance was she talking about? Her name, they were told later, was Elena Ross. But when the team tried to check her identity, they found nothing. No passport, no ID, no military record that matched her name. She was a ghost. Officially, she didn't exist. They moved her to a safe house on the edge of the base. It was quiet there, surrounded by woods and guards inside. Elena sat alone in a room with no windows, just a bed and a table. She didn't ask for food, water, or help. She just waited, silently, staring at the wall like she was thinking 10 steps ahead. The base commander, Colonel Briggs, didn't like it. "We rescued her from a hostage site," he told his officers. "But she acts like she rescued herself." And truthfully, she had. The men who had taken her hostage were found dead, killed by precise shots in hand-to-hand combat. No outside team had gone in. She had escaped on her own and signaled the rescue chopper with a coded flare. Only someone with elite training could do that. But she didn't carry any official gear, not even dog tags, so who was she? The soldiers started whispering. Some thought she was CIA. Others said maybe Mossad or MI6. One young soldier said she moved like a ghost, like she wasn't from any normal agency. Lieutenant Mark Hayes was the one assigned to speak to her. He was smart, calm, and had worked with intelligence teams before. He entered the room slowly. Not wanting to startle her, Elena didn't move, just looked up at him with tired eyes. "You wanted someone with clearance," he said. Showing his badge, "I'm Lieutenant Hayes." She nodded. "Finally," she said, her voice low and even. "I need to speak with someone who can access Level 9. Mark froze. Level 9 was not something people talked about out loud. It was connected to deep intelligence, black operations, the kind that didn't officially exist. Even he only heard about Level 9 in whispers and old rumors. "You're asking for something big," he replied, sitting across from her. "I don't know if I can give you that without knowing who you are." Elena leaned forward slowly. "I was part of a unit that doesn't exist," she said. 5 years ago, we were sent on a mission that went wrong." She paused, her eyes going cold. "We were betrayed from the inside." Mark looked at her closely. He had seen fear in people's eyes before, but Elena didn't look scared. She looked like someone who had buried fear long ago, someone who had seen too much, and survived things she never should have. "I need proof," Mark said gently. "You're asking me to believe something most people never even hear about." Elena stared at him for a moment, then nodded slowly. "You want proof?" she said, standing up. "Fine." She turned her back to him, reached up, and pulled her torn jacket down her shoulders. There, across her upper back, was a symbol burned into her skin, a tattoo. But not just any tattoo. It was a black circle with a dagger through a ghost skull, the mark of a forgotten unit. The Black Ops Division, the one that was erased from all files. Only 4 people Mark knew had ever even mentioned seeing that tattoo. One of them was his brother, who had died during a mission years ago. His hand started shaking. He stood up slowly, staring at the mark. It wasn't fake and it wasn't recent. It had been there for years. "Faded but permanent, Elena Ross," he whispered, now unsure if he was scared or amazed. "Where have you been all this time?" She pulled her jacket back up, looked over her shoulder, and said softly, "Surviving." Lieutenant Mark Hayes closed the door behind him slowly. The air in the room felt colder now, or maybe it was just the way the woman looked at him. She sat on the edge of the metal chair, perfectly still, hands on her knees, like she'd been waiting for this moment for years. Her name was Elena Ross, that's what she said. But there were still no records, no digital footprint, no trace in any system. She was a ghost, except now, Mark had seen something no ghost should carry, a tattoo on her back, shaped like a dagger through a ghost skull, a symbol only used by the most secretive military force in the world. Black Ops Shadow Team. Mark sat across from her, heart still pounding. He had taken a picture of the tattoo and sent it to command. but the response hadn't come yet, so for now, it was just the two of them in the silent room, and Elena didn't look nervous. Not even a little. He leaned forward, keeping his voice calm. "Let's try this again," he said. "I'm Mark, Lieutenant. U.S. Armed Forces. You say you're Elena Ross?" She tilted her head slightly. "I didn't say it, I am." He nodded. "Okay. Then tell me something only she would know." Elena's gaze didn't move from his face. "You were stationed in Kuwait in 2012, she said. "You lost a brother, Sergeant Dale Hayes." Mark's breath caught. He hadn't said anything about his brother. Not to her, not to anyone on base. "How do you know that?" he asked slowly. "I was there," she said softly. "Not in uniform, not officially, but I was in the shadows, helping cover extraction routes during Operation Hollow Flame. That mission went sideways, and your brother died saving 4 hostages. He wrote your name in the sand before he bled out." Mark's stomach turned. That detail about the name in the sand was classified. Only the 2 field commanders and a Black Ops file had ever mentioned it. How could she know? He stared at her, trying to hide the way his hands trembled. "You were there?" he whispered. Elena nodded. "I've been there more times than I can count." Mark leaned back in his chair, processing everything. "Okay," he said, voice low. "Assume I believe you. Why were you taken hostage in Ukraine?" Elena looked away for a second, her jaw tightening. "I wasn't taken," she said. "I let them capture me." "What?" Mark blinked. "It was the only way to get inside," she explained. "There's a black market broker who sells military secrets to rogue nations. They move their data using living couriers, never online, never traceable. I knew if I went in as bait, I'd find the courier, and I did." Mark stared at her in disbelief. "You let yourself be tortured, starved, locked up, just to complete a mission that doesn't even exist on paper?" Elena nodded. "It was my job. It still is." Mark was quiet for a long time. Watching her, there was no pride in her voice. No arrogance. She spoke like a soldier who had done too much, seen too much, and come back with only silence for company. "So why now?" He finally asked. "Why come back? Why reveal yourself after 5 years of silence?" Elena's eyes darkened. "Because the man behind the betrayal is alive," she said. "And he's rising through the ranks like a hero." Mark stiffened. "You're saying someone from our side set you up?" "Yes," she replied, voice cold and flat. "He leaked our mission details. He let my team die. And he buried me alive in another country." The silence in the room felt like a scream being held inside a throat. Mark stood slowly, needing air, needing distance. Everything she was saying felt insane, but at the same time, it explained everything. The broken mission, the bodies found with clean shots, the encrypted distress signal only a shadow agent could send. He walked toward the door, then stopped. "Who is it?" he asked, not turning around. "Who betrayed you?" Elena looked up, her eyes steady and sharp. "I'll tell you," she said, "but not yet. I want to see if he shows up in person." Mark turned to face her again. "What makes you think he will?" She gave a half smile. "Because I'm alive. And that makes me his biggest problem." Just then, Mark's phone buzzed, a message from command. He opened it and his eyes widened. The message was short, but the last line hit him hard. "Confirm authenticity of tattoo. Black Ops symbol. Classified level 9 agent status listed MIA 2018. Name, Ross. Elena rank redacted." Mark looked back at her. She was no longer just a stranger, she was one of them. A soldier from the dark side of war, a ghost returned. And now, he needed to decide whether to help her or turn her in. The room was silent again, but this time it was a different kind of silence. It wasn't tension or confusion. Now it was awe mixed with fear. Lieutenant Mark Hayes stared at his phone screen as the confirmation buzzed in. There it was, clear as daylight, Elena Ross. Once part of an elite division so secret that even presidents denied its existence. Status, MIA, mission record, redacted, tattoo, verified Black Ops insignia, level 9 access. Mark slowly lowered the phone and looked at the woman sitting across from him. She hadn't moved, she didn't look proud, or nervous or smug. She just sat there like she had been carrying this truth alone for too long. "You're one of them," Mark finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. Elena gave a slow nod. "I was," she replied. Until someone decided my team was disposable. Mark walked to the corner of the room, trying to gather his thoughts. He had trained for war, for chaos, for things that didn't make sense, but this was something different. This was a ghost from a forgotten battlefield, standing in front of him, asking to be believed. "You shouldn't be alive," Mark said without thinking. Elena smiled faintly. "I get that a lot." He turned to face her again. "I saw the tattoo, but I didn't know if it was real. Now I do. Do you know what that symbol means to people in intelligence?" Elena nodded. "It means I don't exist," she said, "and that I've done things no one is allowed to talk about." Mark stepped closer. Pulling a chair in front of her, he sat down, calmer now. "I need to understand something," he said. "That tattoo, how did you get it?" Elena looked at him for a moment, like she was deciding whether to speak. Then she reached up slowly, unbuttoned the top of her shirt, and turned slightly. The ink was there, deep black, weathered but strong, a ghost skull with a dagger through it. Inside a circle of fire, each line burned with memory. Each curve told a story of loss, loyalty, and silence. "I didn't choose it," she said softly. "They gave it to me after my 3rd mission. We had just stopped a biological attack in North Africa. Nobody ever heard about it because we made sure no one had to. I lost 2 teammates that day, both gone in seconds, and when I came back they branded me not as punishment, but as a mark, an oath in ink." Mark swallowed hard. It wasn't just a tattoo, it was a signature in blood. Only those who had survived the impossible carried it, and very few survived. "No one's seen this symbol in a decade," he whispered. "The program was shut down, erased from all records." "That's what they wanted you to think," Elena said. "But some missions never end." Mark leaned back, stunned. This woman had survived 5 years without support, without resources, operating in shadows while the world moved on, and now she was back not to brag, not to be rescued, but to finish what she started. He looked at her, a question forming in his throat. "Why now?" he asked. "Why come forward if you've stayed hidden this long?" She hesitated. Then her voice dropped. "Because the man who betrayed my unit is rising in power. He has access to satellites, surveillance tools, and command decisions. If I don't stop him now, more people will die." Mark's eyes narrowed. "Do you have proof?" Elena nodded slowly. "I have recordings, codes, names," she said. "But none of that matters if I'm treated like a criminal. I need one person to believe me." Mark stared at her, weighing everything. His gut told him she was real. His training told him to report her immediately. But something deeper whispered that she was the last thread holding together a truth no one else dared to uncover. "I'll get you in front of someone who can verify all of this," he said finally. "But if you're lying—" "I'm not," she interrupted, her voice steady. "And if I die trying, then at least I didn't run." Just then, a knock came at the door. A young soldier stepped in. "Holding a tablet, sir," he said. "You need to see this." Mark took the device, eyes scanning rapidly. It was an encrypted message from an internal Pentagon channel. Subject: RE confirmed Agent Ross, clearance approved. Additional file incoming, Operation Ash Viper. Mark's heart skipped. Ash Viper, that was the code name for a mission so deadly. Only 4 people knew it existed. 3 of them were listed as dead, and the 4th was sitting right in front of him. Alive, he looked up slowly. "Elena," he said. "They know you're alive." Elena didn't flinch. "I hope they remember why I matter." The safe house buzzed with sudden movement. Guards changed positions. Encrypted messages flashed across secure channels, and a private satellite call line lit up on the main console. People didn't say it out loud, but they all felt it. Something big had just happened. Lieutenant Mark Hayes stood at the edge of the operations room, staring at the blinking screen. A red message flashed. Top priority. Level 9 secure link incoming, Washington HQ. He didn't know whether to feel proud or terrified. In all his years on base, no message had ever been marked Level 9. Level 9 meant decisions were made behind locked doors, under forged names, often without mercy. He turned to the communications officer. "Patch it through," he said, his voice steady but his throat dry. Within seconds, the screen filled with static, then resolved into the face of a gray-haired general with steel-cold eyes. "Lieutenant Hayes?" The voice crackled. "Yes, sir," Mark answered quickly, saluting. "You're holding someone we thought was dead," the general said without introduction. "Agent Elena Ross." Mark nodded slowly. She's here, sir. The general narrowed his eyes. Describe the tattoo you saw. Mark took a breath. A dagger through a ghost skull. Inside a ring of fire, he said. It's weathered, but real. The general went quiet, his face unreadable. That symbol hasn't been seen in a long time, he said. She's one of only 6 agents ever marked with it. The rest are gone. Mark leaned forward, lowering his voice. Sir, she claims she was betrayed on a mission called Ash Viper. She says the man responsible is alive and rising in command. The general's expression didn't change. That information is above your rank, he said calmly. But I will tell you this. If she's telling the truth, then everything we thought was buried is starting to wake up. Mark swallowed hard. What do you want me to do with her, sir? The general looked off screen, as if checking with someone else, then back at Mark. You are to escort her to Site Echo 7, he said. Only speak to Agent Travis upon arrival. No one else. Tell no one outside your immediate team. Mark nodded again. Yes, sir. The call ended with a silent blink. Leaving behind a heavy silence, Mark stared at the black screen for a moment, then turned to the officer beside him. Get the secure transport ready, he said, and double the guard around the safe house. Back inside the locked room, Elena sat calmly on the bed. She looked up as Mark entered, noticing the change in his expression. They called, didn't they? She asked quietly. Mark nodded. They confirmed who you are. They're sending you to Echo 7. Elena gave a short nod, as if she had been expecting this. Good, she said. That means they're taking me seriously. Mark sat across from her again, this time less like an officer and more like a man trying to understand a puzzle too big for him. What happened to your team? He asked softly. You don't have to give details, just tell me why you came back now. Elena leaned forward, her eyes not cold this time, but full of old shadows. Operation Ash Viper was supposed to be simple, she said. In and out, quick data theft, neutralize a threat, return. But someone inside knew our plan. We were ambushed. They used our codes, our patterns, even our fallback routes. She paused, her voice tightening. I saw my team die one by one. I was the only one left, wounded, crawling through dirt, hiding in barns, feeding off scraps. No one came. Mark clenched his fists. But why stay hidden for so long? Elena's eyes turned sharp again. Because I didn't just survive, she said. I tracked the leak. I found old comms, code mismatches, financial links, and all of it led back to someone inside. She stood slowly, looking him straight in the eye. If I had come back without proof, they would have erased me. So I waited, I hunted, and now, I'm ready to finish it. Mark stood too, the weight of her words pressing on his chest. You're not alone anymore, he said quietly. Elena tilted her head, surprised. You believe me? I didn't want to, Mark said. But the truth has a smell. And you stink of it. She almost smiled. Then a soldier knocked on the door. Transport is ready, sir, he said. 5-minute departure. Mark looked at Elena. You sure about this? She nodded. If I die with my boots on. If I live, then justice finally breathes again. As she walked past him toward the exit, Mark noticed something else on her wrist just above the scars. Was a tiny etched number, 44 black. He didn't know what it meant yet, but something told him Washington did, and soon he'd find out. The convoy rolled through the fog like ghosts in metal shells. Engines low, headlights dimmed, soldiers silent, no one spoke, not even Lieutenant Mark Hayes. He sat beside Elena Ross inside the armored vehicle, the air heavy with unspoken questions. It had been 3 hours since Washington gave the order to transfer her to Site Echo 7, a classified location hidden beneath an old airstrip somewhere near the German border. Only high-level operatives even knew it existed. And now, for the first time in 5 years, a forgotten Black Ops agent was being taken there. Elena sat still, her hands cuffed loosely in front of her. She didn't complain, didn't ask for comfort. Her eyes stared straight ahead, but her mind wasn't in the truck. It was somewhere far away. Buried in the past, Mark glanced at her, trying to read her face. You don't have to look so calm, he said quietly. Most people panic when Washington calls their name. She turned her head slightly, her tone flat. I stopped panicking a long time ago. Mark studied her for a moment. He believed that whatever she had seen, whatever she had done, it had burned the fear right out of her. Only purpose remained. The silence stretched until the sound of the engine became a steady heartbeat. Then softly, Mark asked, What really happened out there, Elena? She looked at him for a long time before answering. Operation Ash Viper, she began, her voice distant. It was supposed to be simple. Get in, retrieve the data, get out. There were 5 of us, each from different branches, brought together for a mission no one would ever record. She leaned back, eyes clouded with memory. We went deep into Eastern Europe, tracking a weapons scientist who was building something called the Echo device, a signal disruptor powerful enough to blind satellites and cut global communication for hours. If it had been completed, whole nations could disappear off radar. Mark listened, silent. He could feel her words like a cold wind moving through the truck. We had solid intel, Elena continued, or so we thought. But the moment we reached the compound, everything went wrong. The codes failed, our exit route was ambushed, and someone was already inside waiting for us. She paused, closing her eyes. I lost Marcus first, shot through the chest before he even spoke. Then Tessa. Her voice broke slightly. She was covering our flank and the wall just exploded. She was gone before I turned around. Mark felt a chill crawl up his spine. He'd heard war stories before, but this felt different. Raw, personal, too specific to be made up. I managed to pull the drive, she said. But as soon as I grabbed it, our own encrypted channel lit up. The enemy was using our frequencies. That's when I knew, she whispered. Someone inside gave us away. Mark's jaw tightened. She had said it before, but hearing it again, with such pain behind her words, it felt real. What did you do after that? He asked quietly. Elena's eyes opened again. Sharp now. I ran, she said. I burned the facility, erased every trace, and vanished into the woods. For months I moved between safe houses, abandoned bunkers, even refugee camps. I tried to contact command, but every time I used a secure channel it was intercepted. So you stayed invisible, Mark said softly. Elena nodded, until I found proof. Proof of what? She reached slowly into her boot. Mark tensed, but she pulled out a tiny drive wrapped in a cloth. This, she said, holding it up. It's a copy of the intercepted transmission. It came from inside our system, from a clearance higher than mine. Mark stared at the drive, realizing the weight of what she was saying. If that data was real, it could expose a spy hidden inside the upper ranks of their own military. Elena, he said quietly, you could have disappeared forever. Why risk coming back? She looked at him, her expression unreadable. Because I made a promise, she said. When my team died, I swore I'd finish the mission, even if it meant dying in silence. The truck hit a bump, shaking them both back to the present. Outside, the fog was clearing, and ahead, hidden between cliffs, Mark saw a narrow gate with armed guards. They had reached Site Echo 7. The gates opened with a slow metallic groan, revealing rows of floodlights and steel doors leading underground. A cold wind blew through the valley, making the whole place feel like a graveyard for secrets. As they stepped out, soldiers took positions on both sides. A man in a black coat approached, tall, clean-shaven, with sharp blue eyes that didn't blink. Agent Travis, Mark said, saluting. Travis nodded briefly, his gaze moving straight to Elena. So, he said, the ghost finally returns. Elena didn't react. Still alive, she said. For now. Travis motioned toward the steel door. Washington wants a full debrief, he said. And if your story checks out, we'll open every file on Ash Viper again. Elena's lips twitched into the smallest smile. Good, she said. It's time someone sees what really happened. As the heavy doors closed behind them, Mark realized something chilling. For years, the military had erased this woman's existence, buried her team, and sealed the truth. Now, she was back, not as a ghost, but as the storm they tried to forget. The walls of Site Echo 7 were thick and cold. No windows, no clocks, no sound from outside. It was a place where secrets lived, and where truth could be locked away for decades without a trace. Inside the underground briefing room, Elena Ross sat in a chair bolted to the floor, not because she was dangerous, but because this place trusted no one, not even ghosts from its own past. Across from her sat Agent Travis, one of the few people still active from her old world. He had once trained with the Shadow program before being moved to internal intelligence. His voice was low, steady, like water dripping onto steel. Start from the beginning, he said. Tell us everything, leave nothing out. Elena nodded, calm as ever. I already told the lieutenant the outline, she said, but I came back for a reason more urgent than just revenge. There's a mole still active. Travis raised an eyebrow. You sure? I was there, Elena said. I saw the way our plan failed. They were ready for us. Someone fed them our entire operation blueprint. And it wasn't just once. Other missions started failing after Ash Viper. 2. A shadow passed behind the one-way glass wall. Where Mark Hayes stood watching, he couldn't hear everything. But he could see Elena's body language, confident. But not aggressive, he believed her now fully. But what she was about to say next would shake him even deeper. Back in the room, Travis leaned forward. Do you have a name? Elena's eyes narrowed. I do, she said. But I wanted to be sure before I said it. She pulled out a thin file from the inside of her jacket. It had one photo, a few old documents, and a copied transcript of a communication log. Travis took it carefully, flipping through the pages. The photo showed a man in uniform, clean-cut, well-decorated with sharp eyes and a perfect smile. Beneath it, the name, Colonel Raymond Jensen. Travis frowned. Jensen? He's head of communications for European Command. He's been in the field for 20 years. He's also the one who routed our mission signal during Ash Viper, Elena said, and the only one who had both the authority and technical access to modify our evac codes without alerting the system. Travis looked through the comms transcript, his eyes scanning rapidly. One message stood out, sent 2 hours before Elena's team was deployed. It used a hidden routing key, one designed for shadow operations. It shouldn't have existed anymore, but there it was. Signed with an encrypted signature traceable only to Jensen's old clearance ID. This is serious, Travis muttered. If this is real. It is, Elena said, her voice firm. I spent 2 years hunting down the source of that key. It led through 5 dummy accounts, across 3 countries, but it always came back to him. Travis stood up and walked to the glass, tapping twice. The door opened, and Mark stepped in, now fully caught in the storm. Elena, Mark asked, are you saying Jensen is still leaking information? Yes, she said, and he's scheduled to visit this base tomorrow for a satellite comms test. Travis and Mark looked at each other in disbelief. A suspected traitor was walking right into their hands. What do you want to do? Travis asked. Elena looked at both men carefully, then said, I want to see his face when he realizes I'm not dead. And I want to hear what he says when I show him what I know. That's risky, Mark said. He could be armed or wired. I know how to handle myself, Elena replied without blinking. I didn't survive 5 years underground to run now. Travis paced the room, thinking fast. If we expose him in the wrong way, he could burn everything, he said. But if we let him speak, let him confirm it, we can use it. Elena leaned forward, her voice sharp like glass. I'll confront him alone, she said. Put me in a room with him. Under observation. He won't suspect I'm alive. And when he sees me, he'll talk. Travis paused, then nodded. Fine, he said. But one mistake and we shut it down. That night the base went into silent lockdown. Special cameras were installed in the interrogation room. Microphones tested. Backup teams hidden in the walls. The stage was set. Elena sat in the room the next morning, hands folded, the same way she had sat on the day she arrived, but now, her eyes burned with something deeper, not just memory. But mission at exactly 10 Greekary. The door opened. Colonel Raymond Jensen walked in, holding a data tablet, looking calm and focused. He looked up, froze, and his face went pale. Elena, he whispered, his voice cracked like dry wood. She smiled without humor. Hello, Ray. He staggered back 1 step, then caught himself. You're supposed to be dead, she finished for him. Yeah, that was the plan, wasn't it? Behind the glass, Travis turned to Mark. Start recording, he ordered. This is where the truth begins. To be continued in Part 7. Her final mission. For a few seconds, the entire room stood still. Colonel Raymond Jensen's breath caught in his throat. His hand, still gripping the data tablet, trembled just slightly. It was the kind of tremble you'd miss unless you were watching for it. Elena Ross was definitely watching. She saw every blink, every muscle twitch, every shallow breath. She had been trained to read faces like maps. And Jensen's face right now was filled with one emotion he couldn't hide. Guilt. Thought I was dead, didn't you? Elena said calmly. Jensen opened his mouth but said nothing. I was supposed to be burned in a bunker in Eastern Europe with the rest of my team, she continued. But somehow I crawled out, behind the glass. Agent Travis and Lieutenant Mark Hayes leaned in, listening closely. The room had been bugged with high-grade surveillance gear. Everything was being recorded. Video, audio, even the colonel's heart rate. Jensen sat down slowly, clearing his throat. "Elena, you shouldn't be here," he said finally. "You don't understand the full picture." "I understand enough," she snapped. "You leaked the Ash Viper mission. You rerouted our evac codes. You got my team killed." His eyes narrowed. "You don't know what you're talking about," he said. "There were reasons." "There's always reasons," Elena shot back. "But I want the truth." Jensen leaned forward, voice low. "If I talk, everything falls apart," he whispered. "This isn't just about one mission. There are operations going back 20 years that would be exposed." Elena stood slowly, her hands clenched. "Then let it fall," she said. "Let every dirty secret rot in the sun." Suddenly, Jensen's face changed, his calmness returned, but colder now, like ice forming over a crack. "You think exposing me fixes everything?" He said. "You think justice lives in a report?" "I think justice starts with you," she replied. He smiled almost sadly. "They'll never let you finish this," he said. "They'll bury you again, one order, one signature, and you vanish forever." "Then I'll vanish knowing I did what no one else had the courage to do," she said. "And this time I'm not alone." She pulled a small device from her sleeve and tapped it once. Suddenly, every screen in the surveillance room lit up. Encrypted files began uploading. Jensen's logs, transmissions, bank trails, voice records, all from the drive she had carried for 5 years. She had triggered the upload the moment he admitted guilt. Agent Travis jumped into action. "Lock down the server," he ordered. "Secure the files. Copy everything." Mark watched the data scroll across the screens. Names, missions, bribes, betrayals. This wasn't just one man, it was a network, and it had roots deeper than anyone imagined. Back in the room, Jensen stood, face hardening. "You'll never walk out of here," he said. "I still have people in high places." Elena stared at him, then stepped closer. "Maybe," she said, "but I have something you'll never have again." Time before he could speak. The door burst open, armed guards entered, followed by Travis and Mark. "Colonel Raymond Jensen," Travis said, "you are under arrest for high treason, classified intelligence leaks, and the confirmed deaths of 6 covert agents." Jensen didn't fight, didn't shout. He simply sat down and dropped his hands on the table. He knew the game was over. As they escorted him out, Elena remained still. Her heart didn't race, her face didn't change. But inside something shifted, not victory, because nothing could bring her team back. But something close, closure later. In a quiet hallway beneath Site Echo 7, Travis and Elena walked side by side. "I didn't think you'd actually do it," he said. "Most people break before they get this far." "I already broke," she replied. "I just learned how to keep walking after." "You realize," he said carefully, "you've started a storm. These files, you just ripped the lid off 20 years of silence." Elena looked ahead. "Good," she said. "It's time the silence ended." Travis stopped, pulling a sealed folder from his coat. "What's this?" Elena asked. He handed it to her. "Your final mission," he said. "Officially sanctioned by the Department of Defense. Full clearance. No oversight." Elena opened it slowly, scanning the pages. Her eyes froze on the first line. "Operation Black Seed. Target high-risk asset. Off the grid, known only to Agent Ross." Mark approached from the side. "You told me Ash Viper was your last mission," he said. Elena looked at the file, then at him. "It was," she said, "until I found out who trained Jensen." Mark's eyes widened. "You mean there's another one?" Elena nodded slowly, closing the folder. "Jensen was just a soldier," she said. "I'm going after the one who built the army." Mark didn't ask more. He knew what that look in her eyes meant. The storm wasn't over, not yet. The helicopter waited quietly in the shadows of the mountain cliffs. Its blade spun slowly, not lifting yet, just humming like a mechanical heart preparing to beat again. Elena Ross stood beside the launch pad, wearing a black field jacket and tactical boots. Her eyes stared into the dark horizon, her hands steady, her body calm. Behind her, the weight of everything she had survived rested on her shoulders, but it did not bend her. Inside Site Echo 7, the aftermath of the Jensen interrogation was still unfolding. Files had been pulled, chains of communication traced, and high-ranking names were being whispered in closed rooms. The storm Elena had warned about was now real, and growing. But she wouldn't stay to watch it. Her mission was not over. Lieutenant Mark Hayes approached quietly, holding a sealed folder and 2 passports. One was American, the other had no flag, just a black cover with a red line through the center. Only the highest clearance agents were ever issued that kind of document. "You don't have to do this," Mark said softly. "You've done enough." Elena didn't look at him. "This one isn't about duty," she said. "This is personal." Mark handed her the folder. "Operation Black Seed," he said. "Your final directive." She opened it slowly, scanning the file. Inside was a face she had hoped never to see again. A woman in her 60s, sharp eyes. Military posture. Commander Evelyn Kane. A name that had once trained her, then disappeared into the intelligence world without leaving a single footprint. "She created the Shadow program," Elena said quietly. "And she taught Jensen everything he knew." Mark nodded. "She's been off-grid for years," he said. "Some say she retired. Others say she started working for private war brokers." Elena closed the folder. "I know where she is," she said, "and she's the last name on my list." Mark stepped closer, his voice low. "Will you come back after this?" She turned toward him for the first time, her eyes soft but unreadable. "Do ghosts ever come back?" she asked. Mark didn't answer. A soldier signaled from the pad. The helicopter was ready. Elena climbed aboard, her boots tapping against the steel floor. She didn't carry much, just the black folder, a pack, and the old drive with her team's final mission logs. Before the door closed, she looked back at Mark. "Tell them," she said, "if I don't return, bury the program." He nodded slowly. "And if you do return?" Elena gave the faintest smile. "Then you'll know justice found its last breath." The helicopter lifted into the dark sky, fading into the clouds like smoke. No radio signal followed, no GPS trace, just silence. 3 weeks later, a message appeared on Mark's desk. No return address, no tracking. Inside was a single photo, printed on old matte paper. It showed Elena, sitting at a wooden table in a village somewhere deep in the mountains. Her hair was shorter, and her eyes still watchful. But she was smiling, gently, freely for the first time. Behind her stood 3 children, laughing as they reached for a carved wooden horse on the table. And on the bottom of the photo, handwritten in black ink, were the words, "The mission ends when the children sleep without fear." Mark closed his eyes for a moment. Holding the photo in both hands, he didn't know where she was, or if she was still hunting shadows. But he knew one thing for sure. Elena Ross didn't vanish. She chose peace the only way a soldier like her ever could. Back in Washington, the files from Operation Ash Viper were finally unsealed. Names were arrested, programs shut down, and medals stripped. The Shadow program was erased, not with gunfire, but with the truth. And the ghost who brought it all to light? She was never mentioned again, but some still say, when the wind is quiet and the sky is low, a black helicopter passes over old battlefields. Looking for the last name on a list only one woman remembers, and on her back, hidden under armor and scars, a tattoo still burns. A dagger through a ghost skull, forever watching, never forgetting.